Hi everyone, welcome to Moonlight Design. My name is Kimberly. I'm your instructor for today. Starting off with what we have in front of us, we should have an 11 by 14 size canvas. Next, we have our towel. We have our container for our colors. Next, we also have our brushes. We have our large background brush, our medium square brush, our round tip brush that comes to a point, and our detail brush. Okay, next we also have a fan, or if you have a piece of cardboard or a fan, or an outlet nearby where we can connect a hair dryer, that would be awesome. Okay, so again, if you have a fan or a piece of cardboard or an outlet nearby, if you have a hair dryer, those are all an option for what we can use. We are going to be painting in layers, so we need to make sure that our back layer is dry before we move on to our layer that's in front of it. Okay, so the colors we're going to be using are going to be white, pink, magenta, or red, black, blue, aqua green, and brown. If you don't have aqua green, you can just use blue with white, and baby blue should be fine. Okay, so as a reminder, our brushes are like a sponge. So the moment you dip them in your water, they're going to soak up and get swollen. So make sure you squeeze them really well to make sure all the water has been released from the bristles. And make sure that you use these bristles to get the color really well blended into the water so that we don't have a watery mess afterwards. Okay, we want our colors to be nice and creamy. We don't want them to be watery and see-through, and we don't want them to be sticky. Both watery and sticky is gonna give us some trouble if we're painting on our canvas. Okay, so we're coming in first with our large background brush, picking it up. I'm gonna bring it over here, and I'm gonna start adding a little bit of water to my white. I always like to start off with my white. Make sure that it's really well blended into your color, your water. And we're gonna come in with just a little bit of this aqua green. If you don't have aqua green, again, a little bit of blue and white will be fine. And we're gonna start off first making our horizon lines. So our horizon lines where our sky meets our ground, and that's gonna be about halfway across our canvas. So we're coming in with this aqua green, and we're starting to scrape it downwards a little bit. To this aqua green, we are gonna add a tiny bit of blue to it. We do want it to keep that baby blue look. The aqua green is just gonna be there to add an extra highlight to our water so that it doesn't look exactly like our sky. Okay, so there we go. See? So again, our baby blue mixed in with this aqua green is giving us such a really pretty color there. And we're gonna start to bring this back and forth. As we start to work our way down, I'm gonna start to add a little bit more of that dark blue. And I'm gonna get it just a little bit darker, again, as we work our way downwards. So I'm using that aqua green, picking up a little bit of blue, and I'm working my way down. If I want it to be a little bit lighter, a little bit more aqua green and white will do, and that'll take it a notch up in lightness. Okay, so again, you don't want to press very hard. When you press very hard, you first release your paint and you start to leave lines behind. If you press hard in the beginning to get the paint out, that's fine. But after you've already placed the paint on the canvas, go over it nice and smooth. Just let the hairs on your brush slide over the top nice and light to make a soft painting. Okay, and as we start to work our way down, we're gonna bring this baby blue a little bit lower, just so that it's wet, so that when we start applying our darker blues, they'll blend into that already wet ground a little bit better. Okay, so I'm coming in with my darker blue, starting to pull that downwards. Coming in again, I'm mixing it with my white. If it starts to get too sticky, come back with a little bit more water. See, and now that our background is still wet, When we go back in there with some more paint, it's still gonna blend in with the bottom. The only way that it won't blend is if our paint is dry. Okay, if our paint is dry and we come in with some of this, we're just adding to it instead of blending with it. Okay, so I'm applying my brush strokes nice and thick, and then I'm coming over them very lightly to blend them into that damp background that I was just telling you about. See that? Look at how more natural that looks. So I'm gonna come in with a little bit more black. Remember to add some water to your paint. Not black, I'm sorry, blue. Remember to add a little bit more water to your paint, coming in with that blue. And I'm gonna start to scratch it little by little. I'm gonna add more of that dark blue into this background. Okay, coming in here, applying it nice and thick. Then I'm coming over it again nice and lightly since my background is still wet. And I'm just softening up that texture so that you can't tell that it's a bunch of lines. Okay, so we do want to start using it on the darker side again. So I'm going to pick up some plain blue without any white this time, and I'm going to start to scrape it on just to get some of these lines a little bit darker. If you want it even darker than that, you could add a drop of black into your blue so that you start to get more of a navy blue. And you then can go and apply that color in there. Okay, it's a little rough. Come back, and like I mentioned before, go over it nice and soft. Since our canvas is wet, we're getting that blending effect we're looking for. See, and now we're starting to get a little bit more of that dark blue in there. We're starting to build up our painting little by little. If you want to go back and lighten it up a little bit, if you think you went too dark, you can always go back with a little bit more white, a little bit of that aqua green. Again, so I added a very dark blotch here. I am going to come back, and with my white and my aqua green, I'm going to start to brighten it up a little bit at a time again. Okay, so now that we start to have all these varieties of colors, we are going to be moving on to our sky. So our sky is going to be a light blue, and it's going to be transitioning to a darker blue also. The only difference is that our sky is going to have a little bit more of a purple added to it. And we're also going to add some purple and blue clouds to that. So we're coming in with a little bit of our blue, our aqua blue, and our white. And we're starting off with that light color underneath. Okay, so try to pay attention and remember where your horizon line is at. Maybe you can mark it with a little bit of white, or maybe you can make the bottom a little bit, the bottom of the sky a little bit lighter, so you can tell that that's the difference of where our sky comes in. Again, if you feel like it's getting too scratchy, like mine is right there, come back with a little bit more water, make it nice and soft. Okay, and we're gonna start having that sky blue here, and it's gonna start to fade into a darker blue. So again, we're coming in with that dark blue now, maybe a little bit more white. We don't want it to be too dark yet. There we go. And we're starting to work it down a little bit. Every time we make a next layer, we don't just make the layer and go up. We always come back down just a little bit so that it looks like it's transitioning instead of having two different colors side by side. Okay, coming back with a little bit more of that blue. I'm gonna start to work my way upwards. And as I'm coming in with that blue, I'm gonna add just a drop of this red into it to make it just slightly purple. And now that sky is starting to look a little bit more on the purple side. Okay, remember to come back and pick up water periodically. You want your paint to continue to be nice and smooth. Okay, so again, I'm coming back in there with some of that blue purple. And here we do have some clouds that are in the background. We're going to start off first with our dark blue, which is blue with black. And I'm just going to scrape this color in the back. You see that? I'm using my brush long ways. I'm not using it flat ways. And I'm just scratching it lightly into my background there. Kind of making some lines. This is sort of like the sky, just some clouds fading into the background there. We're going to grab some plain blue without even adding any black. And we're just going to add a couple of lines into that sky. Okay, we're going to go back with our dry brush. I washed it off a little bit and then I dried it. And I'm just going to work on scraping some of this blue off to the sides there so you can't really tell that they're in there so rustically, that they're in there so rough. We want them to look kind of smooth like clouds just in the sky. You can do that with your purple too. Come in there with a little bit of that purple and just start to scrape a little bit of purple into the sky. And it's just this weird hazy background that we have there. See, you can come in there with a little bit of your red and your purple. You could even make some lines there with some of that. Again, very light. See, we're just starting to scrape in some of that pink in there. If you want to come in here with some of that bright pink, you can totally add some bright pink to some of these hazy clouds. From here, we're going to give it a little bit more time for you guys to just kind of dry it up before we can move on to our next step. Okay, so I'm going to put you guys on mute. I'm going to come in with my hair dryer and I'm going to go ahead and start to blow dry this. That way it all starts to dry so we can move on to the next step. We'll be right back. We are going to be grabbing our round tip brush now. And on our bottom half of our horizon line, we're going to begin to paint in a moon right around right here. So our colors are going to be white. We're using our round tip brush, picking up our white, and we're going to start again at around right here on the left hand side of our upper half corner. So again, we're coming in and we're doing a circle. We could begin to fill that in with some white. Okay, we want to make it nice and big. You can always come in and use maybe a cup or something that you may have that's a little circular to help with the lines if maybe you don't feel comfortable with how you're making them. There's nothing wrong with that. You can always outline it beforehand. Okay, so the bottom of our moon is going to be a little bit of aqua green with some blue, or you can go in there and just use some baby blue. And we're going to start to scrape this aqua green towards the top of our moon. Hopefully it blends in with some of that white that we've already placed in the bottom there. You see the way that's looking? And our aqua blue is going to be coming in around our moon underneath towards the right. And once you start getting towards the left, you're going to curve your lines towards your left. Again, if you want to use aqua green, if you want to use dark blue, feel free to use any of those colors. Okay, so again, we're coming in with that light blue. I'm beginning to outline my right, coming in towards my left, scratching it on a little bit, mixing it into that already white that I've placed underneath. Don't forget to come in with a little bit of water as well. We don't want to completely take over that white section. So if you feel that you are taking over it a little bit, come back with a little bit more white and just start painting into the blue to kind of straighten that out a little bit. So we can start painting into our blue with our white very softly. Don't press very hard. Just let the little hairs slide and mix the white in with your blue. So then from here, we're going to pick up a little bit of that pink or red and blue. It's pink and blue or red and blue so that we can begin to get a light purplish kind of line, kind of like what we did back here. Okay, so for this, we're going to just scrape it on top. We're going to come in and just scrape some of this pink to the bottom of our moon. And we're going to keep this towards the bottom of our moon. We don't really want to come up towards the top of it. And there we go. We have our moon slightly off to the side there. Next, we'll be working on the bottom right-hand corner. We're going to be working on our boardwalk. So for this, we're also going to use our round tip brush, and we're going to pick up a little bit of brown. The color we're going to be using to make our boardwalk is going to be brown with black. It's going to be a dark brown. If you at any point want to go in with a brown with a little bit of white, you can do that too. But we're trying to stick to a dark brown. So I'm using a dark brown, and I'm going to be using black to make my boardwalk. Okay, so starting off on the right hand side, we're going to start a little bit into our left hand side. Okay, so imagine we're cutting our canvas in half. We're going to start maybe about halfway down our left side. This is going to be where our first line is going to be, and our next line is going to be a little bit into our right side. Okay, so these are going to be a little bit wide, and then as it comes out towards the right, it's going to be getting narrower and narrower, which is going to make it look as if we have more of a distance. See, so see how it's starting to close? This one's a little bit more inclined. This one's just a little bit straighter. And we're going to bring that towards the water. And we're going to just bring back a line. So these are the colors we're working with. We're going to pick up some of that dark brown. We're going left to right with our dark brown. And we're going to come in with our black as well to make some of those lines on the side. So let's go back with our brown and with our black, trying to create these lines on there. So I'm continuing to add a little bit of brown in there so that you can see the varieties of color. So again, you can come in with just a little bit more of that brown, maybe even some white, and you can get a little bit of a highlight in between your wood. It's going to be brown with a drop of white, just to make your brown a little bit lighter, and you can come in and start leaving in some lines for your wood. Very lightly, some white with brown. We are going to start to apply a little bit of some blue with black. A little bit of blue with black off on the right hand side of our boardwalk area here. So make sure that it's not too wet. Coming in with some of that dark blue, and we're starting to add some shadow on this side over here. Okay, we're starting to get some of that shadow there. You can also come in with a little bit of that dark blue and just sort of add it into the water closest to the dock. Again, come in with a little bit of that dark blue. You could even add a little bit of water to it to make it really, really soft. You can add some more water to make it glossy and make it a glaze. Okay, so you come in, make it super watery, and that way when you apply it, you don't apply it too dark. You apply it a little bit lighter. So I'm coming in with this darker blue. We're gonna come back with a little bit of that pink or red with white, depending on what you have. If you happen to not have pink, you can use red with white. There's no problem with that. And we're gonna start to scrape some on our boardwalk. So we're picking up that pink and we're scraping it. You can add a little bit more white on some sections just to make the pink pop out a little bit more. See how I added more white there? You can add a little bit more red to make it darker in some sections. See how I added more red on that side? So we're playing with the pink, pink with white, pink with red, and we're just kind of making it smaller as we get farther towards the end. Okay, we're also going to add some pink into our waters. Our pink is going to be a little bit thicker towards our left, and then on our right it's going to be a little bit thinner. So I'm going to go in there and add some pink with my detail brush. So I'm going to add some pink with my detail on the right, and I'm going to add some pink with my larger round tip towards my left, and that's what we're going to be working on next. All right, and towards my right again, I'm working on my finer lines, and I'm using my detail brush for that so that it looks like they're a lot thinner than these lines over here. So if you want to use your detail brush, come back in with a little bit of that pink. Finish making up these lines real quick. We don't want to make them too many. We want to make them a little bit on the lighter side. We don't want to make a lot congested in one area. You can also use your thin brush to kind of just brush the ones that are closer to the outside as the lines are starting to go out a little bit more. You could even go in with a little bit more white and start to make some ripples over some of the pink that's already there. Cool, and then we added a little bit of ripples there. Okay, next we're coming in with our round tip brush, and we're gonna add a little bit of water to our black. So we're picking up our black, filling in our brush, and remember our horizon line was about maybe right here. So we're gonna come in and do that horizon line one more time, but with our black this time. So from here, we're gonna grab that black and we're gonna start to make some mountains in the background. So we're picking up the black, we're starting off up here, and we're gonna start to make it a little bit wavy. We're gonna partially cover part of the moon. And then from here, we're gonna work our way straight and maybe go up, come back down, and then go higher up again. And we're gonna paint all this section with black. as we start to fill in this black, we are also going to come in with our square brush and we're going to make a reflection of it. Okay, so this one is larger towards the top, which means that in the bottom, it's going to be a little bit larger as well. It's a little bit smaller here, which means it's going to get a little bit smaller there. So we're coming in with our black and we're just going to do these scrapes to try to replicate the reflection of these mountains. You see how this mountain's starting to go up already? From here, we're going to start to kind of follow along. It doesn't have to be exactly with every single bump. It doesn't have to be an exact replica of that. So again, we're scraping some of that black down here. We're going to have it just a little bit bigger, not too much. Then it's going to start to get small. And then it's going to start to get big again, just like the top area. We're adding this reflection, just scraping our brush. Okay, scraping it, I'm not pressing very hard. This one's going to go a little bit higher. This one's going to go back down, and then it's going to go even higher. See how we're replicating the same design? And we're using our black with that. Okay, and again, these are the colors that we are scratching in. It's going to be some black. Okay, moving on from here, we're going to be working on our boardwalk now, picking up our detail brush. We're going to continue to work on this boardwalk. We're going to begin to add some details to the side, adding a little bit of black into my brown. And we're going to start to do these posts off the side of each one. It's going to be some black with brown, or black if that's what you just prefer to use. So we're going to come out of the side and we're just going to make these little posts coming out from the end there. Okay, so the line is going to come out straight up and then you're going to curve it down. Okay, we're going to do a total of 4 of them on the left and a total of 4 with just the top showing of the 4th, not a full post for the 4th. So we're going to do 3 with the top showing on our right. And we're going to come all the way in the corner, and this is where we're going to add our next one. There we go. Nice. So right here, same thing, except that this time for this one, we're going to come into our water. Then we're going to make our arch. It's not going to be attached to the end. We're going to just kind of bring it straight down, and we're making a line to cut it off at the bottom. Okay, we're coming back in with that brown and that black. We're going to do the same thing next to it, except we're going to paint partially on top of the boardwalk as well. So for this next one, I'm going to skip a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to go down. See how we're creating that distance by where we lay the end of that post? See? And it is going to go over our boardwalk a little bit. Same thing in the bottom, we're just going to kind of cut it off. We are going to work on a reflection color right now for these posts. We're going to be adding a lot more detail to this boardwalk than what you think. Okay, next up here, same thing. I'm going to do another post, bring it straight down. And then right here, we only have the top of a post showing all the way at the bottom. See, we don't have the full post, just the bottom, the top of it. Okay, so here we're painting in the bottom I was talking about. And we're going to paint this in with that black and brown also. Once we're done with that outlining, we're coming back with a little bit more of the black, and we're just going to make an outline at the end of our boardwalk. We're trying to straighten things out a little bit more. We're going to make it look a little bit more like wood right now. We're adding that thick piece of wood that goes on the left-hand side. Same thing on top here. We're going to put one thick piece of wood going across. And we're going to do the same thing at the edge here. We're going to have a thick post going completely across there as well. We're going to come in with this detail brush, a little bit of our black and brown, and we're going to start to work into part of our pink with our brown so that it looks like we have some of that wood there going back on top of it so that we don't lose that wood-like texture. Okay, so you can grab a little bit of that black or you can use the brown, and we're going to start to do these lines. We're not fully trying to cover our pink, but we are going to go into it a little bit with very, very fine lines. And we're just going to keep at it. Next, you're going to see me come in with some white, and I'm going to add some highlight, and that's going to be the final detail on the actual boardwalk. When you guys are done with this section, we're going to continue to repeat the reflection with our moon. So just like we did a reflection of the mountains, we are also going to do a reflection of our moon. Okay, there we go. So we're coming in with the same detail brush, and just like we added our white to our boardwalk, we're going to come in with our detail brush, pick up some of that white, and we're going to start to kind of do the outline of the moon before we go in and smudge it, okay? So here we're going to have the moon coming out this way. So here we're also going to have the moon coming out a little bit. You see that? So we're going to fill in that moon with the round tip brush, same thing, a little bit of white. We're going to kind of scratch it into the black there. Okay, we're going to come into our white. Okay, we want to make sure that our paint is nice and wet when we do this, okay? So again, we're going to come in with our white. Let's repeat that design. from that white. Remember, we came in with a little bit of that blue and white from the bottom up, or that aqua green and white. Okay, we're also scratching that into our background. We want our baby blue to be mixed into our background. Okay, we did a little bit of white up to the center. We went back in there with the white to make it stand out a little bit. Doesn't matter if this looks a little bit messy. And we're coming in with our pink, or pink and blue. Remember, we did a little bit of a purple pink, and that's how we did these colors up here. Okay, so we're gonna have these showing, but we're also gonna have them a little bit blurred. Okay, so from here, we're coming in with our white and our aqua green, and we're just kind of smudging our moon now that it's still wet. We're coming in with some white, and we're just starting to kind of pull this out a little bit so that you can still tell that the moon is there, but so you can also see part of that reflection of that showing. You can come in with a little bit more of that pink and just add it to your sky a little bit, to your water. Okay, and we're gonna kind of bring this downwards. Okay. The one thing we do need to account for here is our water also, and our horizon line. Our water is gonna be that very light aqua green we applied first. Remember, we applied a light blue first. It was that aqua green with some white. You can add a little bit of blue in there. And we're gonna start to scrape a water line right here. Okay, so we're gonna start to put kind of like a water line at the end of the mountain. Okay. With that aqua green, we're starting to make a line here. We're gonna come in and we're just gonna lightly add some of that aqua green into part of the mountain. The lower part of the mountain, the reflection side, we're starting to work in our water. See that? Starting to be nice and reflective. Again, coming back in with that aqua green and white. Continue to do that horizon line along the bottom. Underneath our poles, just like we added a shadow of dark blue underneath our boardwalk, we're going to add a little bit of black and blue into our side of our canvas. We're going to come back with a little bit of black, and we're going to put some lines underneath each of these, just to make it look as if we have that wood kind of reflecting underneath the water. If you want to add a little bit more underneath the boardwalk, you can. See, and now we have some of that blue. I'm going to go back though, like a rebel, and add a little bit more of that highlight over some of this blue that I painted over already, just in case we had some ripples going over it, making it look a little bit more natural. All right. So next, on the right, on the top of our mountains, these should be nice and dry. I'm going to go in there and we're going to make a highlight. In the picture, the highlight is white, but we're going to add a little bit of a different highlight. We're going to add a little bit of that pink, since that seems to be the color that we're painting with here. It seems to be the main color of interest. We're going to be coming in with some of that pink very lightly. And we're going to be scraping it on the right-hand side of our left mountains, making it look as if our moon is reflecting. So if our mountain, our moon is right above this, we're going to have the white there. If the moon is on the left of these mountains, we're going to have our highlights on the left side. If it's on the right, we're going to have the highlights on our right side. Okay, so our moon is here, so therefore the light is shining this way. I'm going to come in and just scratch in some of that highlight right here on top. Okay, and we're going to just kind of scratch in some of the highlight, and you're going to see me play with the highlights as I go around. We are now going to start working on our stars. We're picking up our detail brush, picking up a little bit of white, and we're going to go around and place some stars all over our sky. The same stars that we place on our sky, not exactly the same, but part of the same, we're going to also put stars in our water over here as well. It's reflecting. This section is what's reflecting on top over here. So if you add some stars on top, you're going to go ahead and also add some stars in the bottom. We'll be painting that and then we'll be moving on. All right, guys, so moving on, we are going to have to blow dry this next part once we're done with it again. So I'm just going to go ahead and start this section. So starting off, we are going to start with our background brush first because it is, we are working with our larger branches. We're going to be painting well, I just told you branches. We're going to be painting our branches that go around. And we're going to start with our large brush first. And then we're going to move into our detail brush because our branches are a little bit brittle. They're not very thick. Okay, so we're going to start off first at the far end. Okay, so coming in on the left-hand side, we're going to go just a little bit lower than the corner, making sure you guys can see this well. Okay, and from here, we're going to just skip a little bit, and we're going to bring our branch coming down. Nice and thick. And then this branch is going to go a little bit thinner, which means we don't press that hard. There we go. We're going to do the same thing on the right. We're going to press. It's going to go thick. And then we're going to release the pressure so it gets nice and thin. You see that? We're going to do the same thing from this bottom section because it's a little thick. I'm making it a little bit thicker in the main section. Okay. And then this one's going to be coming off to the side, and it's also going to get very thin. Right here off of the edge, we have another branch coming out. Again, feel free to go over that with a little bit more black if you need to. And this one over here is going to start curving. And we're going to go very lightly with that branch, bringing out another branch very lightly off the end. Another one off the middle. Right here on top, we have another branch coming down. And this branch is going to be a little bit thinner. Again, I am going to go over some of these lines with my detail brush. Okay, if you feel that your branches are way too thick, go back in there with the liner, with your finer brush again, and work on making those lines just a little bit thinner. We have one branch there. Next, we're going to have several coming off of the side here. We have one that's curving up, and then it's coming down. And we have several more coming out of the side there. And we're going to have one more right in the. So we're coming in with our detail brush, and we're going to add more of these lines. More of these branches. And it's a little bit easier when you have a finer brush. See that? How pretty that's looking? Same thing here. I'm going to come in, and I'm just going to make these lines a little bit better. Okay. And you can add more branches. It doesn't specifically have to be the ones that I told you. If you want to add a little bit more, if you want to vary the branches up, you can go ahead and do that. Same thing on this side. And then this one just kind of goes down. Also, if you want to add some branches to those, you can. Okay, right here at the bottom, underneath our mountain, we're going to come in with some of this black, and we're also going to be working it a little bit in towards our left. It's going to be a couple of more branches there. So you guys can see these a little bit more. I'm going to add some white just so you guys know where I marked my branches at. So once we allow this to dry, we're going to come back with our round tip brush, and we're going to use a variety of colors. We're going to use pink with white. We're going to use red, and we're going to use some purple. How do you make purple? You mix your pink and your blue, or you mix your red and your blue, and you'll get a purple. So those are the three colors we're going to be using up top. I'm going to be grabbing some of that. Make sure that your brush is nice and washed too. Mine had a little bit of black in there. Okay, so I'm picking up some of that pink, and I'm adding some of that white, and I'm just going to come and press and pull. And we're going to start making all these pretty little flowers around. And that's what you're going to see me using. I'm going to be using my pink. And I'm going to be using my red. See, there's my red. And I'm going to be using my blue with a little bit of that red in there. See, so now we have a little bit of a purple. And I'm also going to add some of that in there as a shadow. Okay, so you're going to see me playing with these colors as I go around back and forth throughout these flowers and these branches. So from here, we're adding in our white. That's going to be our final color. If you want to go in and re-outline some of these branches, if maybe they're a little bit hidden in the back, you can come back with some of that black and add some of that shadow color in there to make the branches pop out a little bit more. So I'm adding a little bit of that white. That's the final highlight color. And you could make them very full like me, or you could make them a little bit more sparing. It doesn't have to have that many flowers. If you want it to be a little bit emptier, you can have them be a little bit more empty. They don't necessarily have to look exactly like mine. Again, this is your painting, so you guys need to be proud of your own work. And if you guys feel like you want to do it different, feel free to get inspired and just kind of do your own thing. It doesn't always exactly have to be like mine. So I'm going to come back with a little bit more of that black, and I'm going to just add a little bit more of those branches, make it kind of stand out a little bit. There you go, making it look as if we can still see some of these branches in the background. Okay, we have some branches there. We can make it look as if we have another one coming out of the back. One in between. We just have to do some of these black lines in between some of these flowers to make it look as if our branch is still attached there. You see how I kind of went in between here and I added some broken lines. Same thing here. So we're continuing to add that black, make it look like it's not just a big bush covered with flowers. We want to make it look as if there's still a branch there. A little bit more black right there. Same thing. If you want to go back with some of that pink again and go over some of these branches after you outline them, it's a back and forth process. We're supposed to go back and forth, making sure that we're happy with what we're getting. If you're not, go back and add more flowers. If you think you overdid it with the flowers, come back and add more branches. If you think you overdid it with the branches, and you go back and forth until you're finally happy with your piece. Okay. Just gonna add a little bit more white to this section here to erase it. And I'm gonna add a little bit more pink and black in there as well. There we go. So from here, you come in, you pick up your white, and on the right-hand side, you come in and you do your signature. After this, you're done.